All right, Econ 1B students. So today I'm going to try to use my new dot cam to show you guys how to complete the Production Possibilities Frontier participation activity. It's our first participation activity. You are free to print it out and complete it and submit it, or do it on scratch paper, whatever works best for you, just so long as you do get it submitted. I'm going to apologize in advance. The video quality is not great because I'm using Zoom to record it. I'm having some problems with Camtasia, but hopefully it won't be too bad, and we can talk about more ways to solve that problem if it does become an issue. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and plug the camera in and get started. And this Production Possibilities Frontier model is really important. We're going to end up using it a lot in the next chapter, in chapter 3. We're going to use it as we wrap up in chapter 2. And so I want to make sure everyone's comfortable with it. Plus, it's a great opportunity to get comfortable with a little bit of the graphing we're going to be doing throughout the semester, because graphing is really important in economics. So let's see if my camera will load. Nope. Let's try one more time. All right, let me reopen it. Nothing says I love teaching online like problems with technology. Okay. There we go. Great. Okay, so hopefully that's pretty legible. So it's not as important as it used to be to write your name on these because you're going to be submitting them on Canvas, but I just like the practice. So then you want to go ahead and remember that these problems all come from the PowerPoint slides that we looked at. So the PowerPoint slides for chapter 2 go over specifically how to complete these step by step. We went over the first one together. The second problem we're going to go over together in class on Wednesday, and it's going to lead into the work we do in chapter 3. So the first one says that we have a single input, and remember our Production Possibilities Frontier is one input, two outputs. So in this case, we have $50 worth of gift card to the campus bookstore, with which we can either buy a notebook, which I'm going to call NB, for $10, or a pen for $5. And we want to go ahead and make a quick table, kind of like what we've got here for number 2, where we see how many notebooks we could buy and how many pens we could buy. And this isn't explicitly necessary unless it helps you. So I would say we can go through and see if we only buy notebooks, $50 to spend on $10 notebooks, we could buy a total of 5 notebooks. If we spend all $50 on those $10 notebooks, we have $0 to buy pens. If we spend $40 on notebooks, that'll give us 40 notebooks. We'll have $10 left to spend on pens. At $5 each, that's going to be 2 pens, and so on. If we buy 3 notebooks, that's $30, leaving us $20 to buy pens. And then I'm going to skip ahead to the last one. If we don't buy any notebooks, we can spend all $50 on pens, meaning we can get 10 pens. And then the next thing you want to do is graph that Production Possibilities Frontier. So you want to remember that you're going to be using a simple axis here. And one part of the axis is going to be the pens we can buy. And the other one is going to be the notebooks. And right now, it's not super important which item is on which axis. In chapter 3, we're going to look at 2 countries producing 2 goods with the same input, and then it's going to matter. We'll talk about that more when we get there. But you want to think about, okay, how many notebooks could I buy? I could go anywhere from 0 to 5 notebooks with $50, right? So I could have 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 notebooks. And then I could have anywhere from 0 to 10 pens. So I could say, let's do it a little bit different. Then we go 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. The important thing here is to find a way to graph that works for you. I'm not a big stickler on things like if you want to have grid marks, if you want to use graph paper, if you want to freehand. just so long as the ideas that are important to this graph are being conveyed. So remember, this production possibilities frontier, the important thing to convey is what our production possibilities are. What are the possible combinations of notebooks and pens? So it could be 5 notebooks and 0 pens, or 4 notebooks and 2 pens, or 3 notebooks and 4 pens, or 2 notebooks and 6 pens, or 1 notebook and 8 pens, or 0 notebooks and 5 pens. And altogether, that gives us our production possibilities frontier. And again, you're going to notice, I'm going to just work on that a little bit. I guess I could get a straight edge out. That is a straight line and not a bowed out production possibilities frontier. And that's because the relationship between notebooks and pens stays the same no matter how many we consume. And that's basically because that price, the price of notebooks and the price of pens, stays the same at every level. So that's our first production possibilities frontier. And I'm a big fan of colored pencils and colored pens. As we move through the semester, you'll see that. And for some graphs, it makes it easier. If it's distracting to you, please do whatever works best for you. So now we have our production possibilities frontier that shows all possible consumption bundles. Now, number 2 says, use the chart at the right to draw the production possibilities frontier for production of computers and wheat. And in this example, we're looking at a country that has 50,000 hours of labor and can use either 100 hours to produce a computer or 10 hours to produce a ton of wheat. And it's going to be pretty much the same type of graph, right? So we want to go ahead and put down wheat on one part on one axis and computers on the other. And the table's already calculated some of the possible combinations of production, right? So we've got all these possible combinations. We could look at other possible combinations if we wanted to. You could imagine basically infinite possible combinations. But I'm going to go ahead and take what's already here. I'm going to say, okay, there could be 500 computers and 0 tons of wheat, or there could be 5,000 tons of wheat and 0 computers. And then I can just say, hey, that's my production possibilities frontier. Any point on that straight line between those two is one of our possible production bundles. That's a pretty straight line. If you want to, if it helps you to go through and mark each point, you're welcome to. You're not required to, so long as the information that is needed to be communicated is communicated. Okay. And then here we've got so now the problem number 3 says to, on the graph, find a point that represents 100 computers and 3,000 tons of wheat. Label it F and ask if it's possible and if it's efficient. So 100 computers and 3,000 tons of wheat would be right about here. I'm going to call that F. And F is possible. We have the labor to do it. But is it efficient? No, it's not efficient. We could make more. We could produce more computers or more wheat and be better off. So we don't want to be below the production possibilities frontier because we want to be efficient. We want to use everything we have. Next one says, find a point that represents 300 computers and 3,500 tons of wheat and label it G. So that would be 300 computers and 3,500 tons of wheat. That would be point G. And is that point possible? No, there's no way. The maximum amount we can produce is represented by that production possibilities frontier. It's the frontier, the absolute limit that we can produce. So it is not possible. Is it efficient? I mean, sure, theoretically, if we could get there, we'd love to be there. But the reality is the most important thing is that point G is impossible. We cannot be there. The last question says, what would a decrease in the workforce do to the production possibilities frontier? So again, think about the fact that this PPF is based on 50,000 hours of labor. If there are fewer workers, we'll have fewer labor hours. That's going to affect our ability to produce goods and services. And so what that would do is that would have the effect of shifting the production possibilities frontier in reducing how much we could produce. So it would shift the PPF in and reduce our ability to produce. And it would reduce our ability to produce both wheat and computers. And if you want to draw it on your graph, you can. You don't have to. If you've got a really pretty graph, you don't want to mess it up. I get that. I draw these every day. So I'm going to go ahead and say it could look something like that, right? Cool. That's it. That's the participation activity. And these are really important because they give you a chance to practice these graphs, practice these ideas with me, and get some points for it. If you have any questions, let me know. Post it in the discussions on Canvas, and I'll see you guys next time.